So let's continue. So I am now going to introduce another class of signals which are called exponential signals. Exponential signals. Now what are exponential signals? So exponential signals are denoted by a mathematical expression as shown here. You can say x of t is equal to some constant. You can put k or a or whatever constant you want, and then e raised to sigma plus j omega t. Okay, x of t is equal to a into e raised to sigma plus j omega t. Okay, so this is another very important class of functions which we will repeatedly use in this course. Okay, so the first class I already told you, impulse function, unit step function, they are very important. It will come again and again in the course. And the other class of function which are equally important is this exponential functions. Now how does this function look like? This is a complex function, and therefore if you expand using Euler's identity, then you can write it as a into e raised to sigma t into cos omega t plus j sin omega t. So you could write like this. So it has a real part and an imaginary part. So the real part of this signal x of t is basically a e raised to sigma t cos omega t and the imaginary part of this signal x of t is basically a e raised to sigma t sin omega t. Okay. So this is the real part and the imaginary part. Imaginary part is the part which has j. Okay, j, or in electrical engineering or in electronics engineering we use j for, j is basically square root of minus 1. In mathematics usually we put I, okay, but here mostly books use j as square root of minus 1, but it is referring to the imaginary part. Okay, so now depending upon the value that each of these parameters take, say for example sigma is one parameter, omega is one parameter, so we can divide this into different cases. So let's take a case, say case 1, where omega is equal to 0 and sigma is less than 0. Okay, so or let me take omega equal to 0. Okay, so and sigma less than 0. So in this case x of t is going to look like a into e raised to sigma t, right? Because sigma plus j omega, omega is 0 means j omega is gone, so it has only real value. So it's a real valued signal, but given that sigma is less than 0. Okay, so if I plot this signal, any signal, if you plot it, you will get an idea how it varies with time. So in this particular case, sigma is less than 0. So when t equal to 0, you have the value of the signal as a, and as t increases, what will happen to the positive side? E raised to sigma, exponent is negative, so its value reduces. So it's an exponentially decaying function to the right. Now how fast it decays? So that is determined by the magnitude of sigma. Okay, so this I have drawn for some value, say sigma 1, which is less than 0. Now if I have a more larger negative value, what would happen is that Okay, let me also plot this function to the right. So this function, if I continue to plot to the right, it will exponentially rise. Okay, so this at t equal to 0, it passes through a. Now let me plot for another value of sigma, where sigma is a say sigma 2, where sigma 2 is more negative than sigma 1. So in that case, the function will quickly decay in comparison with sigma 1. Okay, and it quickly rise to the left side also. So this one is for sigma 2, which is less than sigma 1. Okay, sigma 2 less than sigma 1. So this is the kind of plot that we will get. Okay, so now also let me plot for the case where sigma is positive. Okay, so what will happen if sigma is positive? Okay, so in this case one, let us include both cases. Number one case where sigma is negative, and the second case is where sigma positive. So if sigma is positive, what would happen is that it is an exponentially rising function. The expression is still the same. If sigma is positive, means for positive side it will rise. So what will happen? You will have something like this, which rises like this. Okay, so this is some sigma, say 3, which is greater than 0. If it is a more larger positive number, sigma, say sigma 4, then it would rise even faster. And it will decay also faster to the left. Okay, so this is sigma 4, which is greater than sigma 3. So that is how this particular case, okay, where omega is equal to 0 look like. Okay, so depending upon whether sigma is 0 or sigma, okay, let me consider the case where sigma is 0. So sigma is less than 0, I have considered. Sigma is greater than 0, maybe I should have used a different color for this. So let me use a different color for this. So for sigma positive, I am using this purple color, and another color for. Okay, so this is positive. Now for sigma equal to 0, sigma greater than 0, and then sigma equal to 0. So if sigma is equal to 0, we will get a into e raised to 0, which is a only. So what does that mean? I will have a constant function. Okay, so this is the case where sigma is equal to 0. Okay, so this is one class or one case where you have omega equal to 0. Next, we are going to consider case 2. Let's say case 2. In this case, sigma is equal to 0 and omega not equal to 0. Okay, so in that case, our x of t is going to be a into e raised to a into e raised to j omega t. So if I write it in using Euler's identity, I will get a cos omega t plus j sin omega t. So this is a complex function. How do we plot it? It has a real part which varies with time. It has an imaginary part that varies with time. So one of the way to plot this kind of function is, if you want to plot it as a 2D plot, then we need to plot multiple times. One for imaginary part we need to plot, and second for real part we need to plot. So that's the more convenient way of plotting it. So this is the real part plot I am going to. So this is a complex function. It has real part and imaginary part x of t. So real part of x of t is what I am going to plot first. Suppose a is positive. So at t equal to 0, the real part is going to be a. And then cos omega t means it will just oscillate between minus a and plus a. Like this. Okay. So this is the plot of the real part. Now if I go to the imaginary part and plot it, so that will give another function. Okay, so if I plot this, then so this is imaginary part of x of t. Now the period is same for both. Period of these are sine wave with constant amplitude to oscillate between plus a and minus a, and the period is t, which is 2 pi by the value of omega. Okay, so this is how it would look like. Okay, so I am assuming omega to be positive. Okay, there is a difference between omega positive and omega negative. So the difference will be, if it is omega is a negative quantity, the real part will remain the same. The imaginary part will be flipped with respect to the horizontal axis, that is the time axis. That means instead of it going like this, it will go down. It will go like this. That will be the only difference. Okay, so this particular one is for omega less than 0, and the blue is for omega greater than 0. Okay, and the period is the same whether omega is positive or not. It will only depend upon the magnitude. Okay, so it is 2 pi by modulus of omega. Okay, so that is this. So and the period of the real part is also the same. This is also t equal to 2 pi by modulus omega, whether it is positive or negative. So it's a cos function multiplied with a, and this is a sine function multiplied with a if omega is positive. So this is one way to plot it. Okay, for sigma equal to 0 case with omega fixed. Okay, omega is fixed. Okay, it could be positive, it could be negative, and as omega increases, what is going to happen? You have more rapid fluctuations because time period will reduce. As omega increases, you will have more rapid. If instead of this plot, it will have more number of cycles per second. Okay, so x-axis is time, whose unit is second. So in 1 unit of time, you will have more cycles if omega increases. So that is how exponential. So all the popular cosine function, sine function are actually are actually inside this case of exponential functions. Okay, so now let's go to so this is our second case, sigma 0 omega e.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, shouldn't we that A also be with sine omega t?
A also be
With sine omega t. So in the algebraic manipulation, sir, cos omega t plus j sine omega t. That A is
yes. You mean here, right?
yes, sir.
Correct. Yeah. Then only you will get amplitude as A. That's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any other observation, comments?
Oh, sir.
Okay. So
This is fine.
let's look at now the third case. The third case is where none of them is 0. Okay. Both are positive or non-zeros. Case 3. We put like this. So you have sigma not equal to 0 and then omega not equal to 0. This is the most general case. So you have x of t as a into e raised to sigma t into e raised to j omega t. Okay. But before this, I think it is also a good idea to plot it in a different way. Okay. So as a 3D plot. So maybe I will do that and then I will come back to this. Okay. So I'm just going to shift this downward just to show you a plot that we can do. Alternative plot. Alternate way of plotting e raised to j omega t or a e raised to j omega t. So that is this requires a little bit of imagination. I am going to draw 3 axes here. So it's a 3D plot on a 2D page. So you have to little bit imagine. Okay, so this is my real axis and this is my imaginary axis, and then perpendicular to that I have so you have to imagine this in 3D. So this is my time. So I consider a 2D plane, the real and imaginary, and then perpendicular to that there is a time axis. So what I need to do is basically so this particular function a into e raised to j omega t, you give different values of time. So if you put t equal to 0, it is e raised to 0, that is 1. So it will be entirely real. It will be here. So anything so this is basically it extends to this side also. It extends to this side also. So this is negative values of time here, positive values of time. This is my origin. So at t equal to 0, you have e raised to 0, the exponential part is 1 and it will be multiplied with a, so you have a here. So that is one point. I am assuming omega positive. Now if I go to a later time, what will happen? E raised to, say, if omega t become, say, pi by 4, omega t become pi by 4. As t increases, then depending upon the value of omega, at some point of time it will become pi by 4. Omega t become pi by 4. So first I am saying omega t equal to 0, we have it as a. Then omega t equal to pi by 4, then it will be a into e raised to j pi by 4. Now what is j pi by 4? It is 1 by root 2 plus j 1 by root 2. So cos pi by 4 is 1 by root 2, sin pi by 4 is 1 by root 2. So if you take the magnitude of this quantity, it is still a. So you can think about a vector of length a like this. At a later time, suppose this time, that will be pointing at different direction like this. I mean 45 angle with the real axis. Okay. So if I plot this angle, this is 45 degree. So it is plotting like. So this is the new point. After another pi by 4, so that is, I will come here, that is omega t is equal to pi by 2. Then I have e raised to j pi by 2, and j pi by 2, cos pi by 2 is 0, sin pi by 2 is 1, so I will have ja. So the function, so this is going to now align with the vertical axis. So it will be like this. It's very difficult in fact to show it properly. How do I show it? So basically you can see that something like a spiral is it's very difficult to draw. Maybe I should show this. So I'm trying to okay, so this is how this is what I'm trying to say. So we have JA, so it will be in the vertical direction. So vertical direction, so it is somewhere here. And then okay, so omega t is equal to pi by 2 plus pi by 4. Again it will become e raised to j pi by 2 plus pi by 4. So that will make a, the real part is going to become minus 1 by root 2, and imaginary part is 1 j root 2. So that is when you have it somewhere here, and it will be pointing like this. So this way the point will keep on shifting, time is advancing. Okay, so time is advancing again and again. So this is the tick of the time. Okay, so it's complicated. That's why it is convenient to draw by separating it to real part and imaginary part. But this is one alternate way of plotting it. So you will get something like a spring. Okay, something like a spring. Okay? It has it is turning basically anti-clockwise when you look from here. Okay, when you look from here, it is going to turn anti-clockwise and advancing in time and rotating in the real and imaginary axis. Okay, so this way you can continue. So next point, it will be completely aligned in the real axis with the negative value. Okay, so one more point I will show. Omega t is equal to pi. So this will be a into e raised to j pi, which is basically minus a. So that I can show like this. So like this. So this is the next point. So you can see the vector is just rotating and advancing in time. So you have to have some kind of imaginations to see it for yourself. Okay, so now let's go to the final case where we have none of this 0, a nor sigma nor omega, none of these are 0. So that is the most general case. So again I can expand it as e raised to sigma t cos omega t plus j into a e raised to sigma t sine omega t. So if I plot the real and the imaginary axis or real and imaginary part of the function separately, that will be very convenient. Okay, so first let me plot the real part of x of t. So in order to plot, we need to take some value for sigma. So let me take sigma negative first. So if I take sigma negative at time t equal to 0, again the real part is going to be a, and then as time advances, what is going to happen if sigma is negative, I know that it will decay like this. Okay, so this is minus a, it also it will decay like. Okay, so roughly, so this is what I am showing here is e raised to sigma t, where sigma is less than 0, and to this side it will exponentially rise. Now we had a cos function here whose amplitude is now decreasing exponentially. So this is how it looks like. To the left side you have amplitude exponentially rising, and to the right side we have amplitude exponentially reducing. Okay, so that's the real part, and the imaginary part is similar. Only thing is that it is a sine function. So you have to first draw this envelope which determines the amplitude of this oscillating part. So both of this will have same time period. Okay, so this is your imaginary part of x of t. So this is the most general case. Now if sigma is positive, only difference is that it will grow to the right and decay to the left. Okay. So maybe I will show that case also. So in which case, so this is our a, and this is our minus a. Okay, so it will go to the right and then decay to the left. So this is a case where sigma is greater than 0. Okay, same thing I can draw for the real part also. So that's the most general case, and if you plot it 3D again you can do that, but it's little tedious, but I will just attempt to do it.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Can't we take sigma greater than 0 for cos omega t?
yes, we can take. We can take that. You need, if I have to plot it, I just need to draw this. So this, I have to first of all show the envelope like this, and then yes, so this is how it will look like. Okay, so okay, so this is the case of sigma greater than 0.
Yes, sir.
So now I'm just attempting to draw in a 3D plot same information, but it is little tedious as I told you, but it's just an attempt. You need to be good in drawing, so then only. So at t equal to 0 again, the point will be here, okay, because you see that the envelope is actually passing through A in time t equal to 0, both real part and imaginary part, and you can see that at t equal to 0 the real part is fully A and imaginary part is 0. Okay, so that is why it will be oriented, the vector will be oriented like this. And then what happens, if I am drawing it, I will only draw for one case, otherwise it will become very messy. So the case I will draw is basically sigma is less than 0. That means as time increases, we will have decay also. So the earlier the vector was constant amplitude, but it is just rotating. That is the case of sigma equal to 0. But if sigma is negative, then what will happen? The vector will have a reduction in amplitude also. It's not a spring. Okay, so let me go with maybe a green color. So you see that as it goes to larger and larger time, it has an amplitude reduction also. So hope you can visualize this. There is a okay, so there is a 3D plot where you have something like a vortex. It just reduce the vector which is rotating. Okay, so this is the vector I showed at time t equal to 0, and after some time it will come like this, then after some time it will go like this, then like this, then like this, okay, then like this. So this vector is not same length, its length is reducing, okay, length is reducing, so that's what it means. Okay, so this is the 3D plot. Okay, so you have the real of x of t here and imaginary part of x of t here. So this is the second class of signal, exponential signal, which is very important for our class. So now I'm coming back to our LTI system. I'm going to give an exponential signal as input to the LTI system. Okay, I'm going to give exponential signal as input to the LTI systems. So in today's class we are just focusing only on continuous time version of LTI system. Okay, exponential input that is x of t is equal to e raised to st, where s is equal to sigma plus j omega. S is a complex number. So exponential input to an LTI system. This is continuous time, okay? And discrete time I will introduce later. So this is going to be very interesting, okay, and it is very important also, okay? This exponential input is very unique, or very special for a continuous time LTI system. So again, let me draw a block to represent LTI system. Now LTI system, you can represent it in so many different ways. The way I will represent is by using its impulse response. So we are giving a special input which is e raised to st. So a is 1, okay? The constant which was there earlier, it is 1. Otherwise it is very general, okay? You can have you can keep a also, that is also no issue. If you want, you can keep a also. So then it is very general, okay? Amplitude you can vary, and then s is a complex number, it has real part, imaginary part. The question is, so x of t is my input. The question is, what is y of t? So that is given by convolution, because this is an LTI system. So we can immediately say that, oh, of course we know this relationship between output and input. That is, output is basically a convolution of x of t and h of t. So how do you evaluate it? Yeah, you evaluate it by an integration where tau goes from minus infinity to plus infinity. Okay, so before I write this result, I would prefer to write this as h of t convolution x of t, which I can do because commutative property lets me to do that. Okay, yesterday I proved that x of t convolution h of t is h of t convolution x of t. Now there is an advantage of writing like this, because in the definition for h of t convolution x of t, I will write h of tau into x of t minus tau d tau. Okay, so now I have a particular form for x of t which I will put in here. So if I put in my form of x of t, so what is my x of t? X of t is a into e raised to st. So x of t minus tau is what? Replace t with t minus tau. So that is e raised to s into t minus tau. So h of tau into a into e raised to s t minus tau d tau. Now tau is the variable of integration, t is not a variable of integration. So what I can do is I can pull e raised to st and even a constant a out of this integral. So this, I can write it as tau going from minus infinity to plus infinity, h of tau into e raised to minus s tau d tau, and I will pull out a into e raised to st in out of the integral. So into a into e raised to st. Now, but what is a into e raised to st? It is, this is our input. This is our input. Oh, that is very interesting. So we are saying that our output is basically given by e raised to tau, an integral that involve only h of tau e raised to minus s tau d tau into, this is multiplication. Okay, I have almost pulled out, so I have put in the x of t inside the convolution, but then x of t came out of the integral, and I have an integral which is looking like this. Now if I evaluate this integral, that integral is going to depend upon my h of t only. Okay, so after integrating, tau goes away. I get a function which is a function of s. So I will write it as h, capital H, h of s into x of t. Okay, so this is my y of t. So this looks quite simple. So today when we started in the first class, we took an example of finding the convolution, and you see that we took some time to evaluate it. Convolution evaluation is not very easy, especially in continuous time. It is difficult. For discrete time, we had some alternate methods to quickly evaluate convolution sum, but convolution integral we have to divide carefully different ranges, because it takes different functional form in different ranges, and therefore we need to do part by part. But if you look at here, instead of any signal, but if you give an exponential signal as input to an LTI system, then things look really simple. The output is basically some complex number. S is a complex number, capital H of is a complex number. Okay, that is just multiplying your input. Okay, so here let me write it. Here h of s is a complex function of s. It's a complex function of s, and it can be written in polar form. Any complex function or number can be written in polar form as modulus of h of s multiplying angle, that is e raised to j angle h of s. Okay, so you take the modulus of that complex, whatever is the complex number, you take the modulus for a particular value of s. It will be a complex number. So complex number will have a magnitude. Suppose h of s is like a plus jb, then for a particular value of s. Okay, so sum s is equal to sigma plus j omega, and then if you write it in polar form, what will happen? You are writing basically a square plus b square, that is a magnitude, into e raised to j, and here it will be tan inverse, some theta will be there, tan inverse b by a. So that is what you do. So you can write a complex number as polar form like this: magnitude multiplied by exponential of the angle. So now if you look at, we have given a special signal x of t, so therefore our y of t is what? Y of t will change the amplitude by a factor h of s magnitude. Okay, earlier it was a, now it is a multiplied by h of s, that is a new magnitude. So if magnitude of h of s is greater than 1, you are increasing the magnitude. If magnitude of h of s is less than 1, it is going to decrease the amplitude of the exponential. Earlier it was a, output it will be little less. And then e raised to, or so the e raised to j sigma t, okay, and sorry, e raised to sigma t into e raised to j omega t plus angle of h of s. Okay, so this is what my output is going to be. So this is very, very special. This you can't have this simplification for any signal. only for exponential signal you will get this simplification. So let me write it again. So what are we trying to say? So we have an LTI continuous time system described by an impulse response to which we gave e raised to st as the input, and what we are saying is that all that the system will do to this input is to change the amplitude from A to A multiplied by modulus of A. That is one thing that the system will do. It will change the amplitude of A from A to A into modulus of H of S and it will change the phase of e raised to st. So e raised to st will be added with the sum j angle of H of S. So these are the only two things. So instead of e raised to st, the phase is now becoming j in j angle H of S. So it will change the amplitude of the exponential, it will change the phase of the exponential. That's all an LTI system can do to an exponential signal. So therefore exponential signal is a very special signal for a continuous time LTI system, because the only change that will happen, so it will not change the shape of the input signal, it will preserve the shape, but it will change the amplitude. It will change the amplitude, it can change the amplitude and it can change the phase. Okay, now if we go back to the plots that we did, so here all these plots that we did, okay, changing the amplitude means what? Changing basically the length of this rotating vector here. Okay, so maybe let's take the case where sigma is 0. It's more easy to see. So changing the amplitude means if I change the amplitude without changing the phase, it will be like this. It will be a small sine wave. I mean, it will be a small sine wave. Or it could be a bigger sine wave, depending upon, so its period will be the same. Okay, here I am showing a small sine wave, or it could be a bigger sine wave. I can have, instead of A will be multiplied by a larger number, so I can increase the amplitude like this. Okay, I can increase the amplitude like this. This is one way I can change the amplitude, either increase or decrease. So green is showing decreasing the amplitude, okay, after multiplying A with some magnitude of H of S. So if magnitude of H of S is smaller than 1, it will decrease the amplitude, just like the green waveform. If the magnitude of H of S is greater than 1, it will increase the amplitude like the red one. Second way it can change is the phase. Phase means just shifting the waveform to the left or right. Okay, so here A cos omega t is the expression. So if I go back to the expression, let me use this. A cos omega t is the expression that I am drawing, and I talked about multiplying A with modulus of H of S. Now I am talking about introducing a phase. Instead of omega t, if it is omega t plus phi, okay, you can write it as A into cos omega, then t plus phi by omega. So this is the amount by which it will be shifted, phi by omega. If phi by omega is negative, we will shift it to the right. If phi by omega is positive, we will shift it to the left. So whatever waveform that you are seeing, if you shift it to the right or to the left, it will be, it has the same. So for example, if I shift it by pi by 2, okay, then the resulting will become something like this. Okay, so this is shifting by phi by omega. Okay, and that is equal to minus phi by 2. I shifted it to the right. So if phi by omega is equal to pi by 2, I am shifting it by pi by 2 or 90-degree phase to the right. Okay, so this is the second thing which the LTI system can do. When I give this input exponential signal, if I give to the input, it can do two things on the input signal. Okay, it can change the amplitude, or it can introduce a phase. Phase means shifting the function. Amplitude change means just changing the length of that rotating vector. You can think about it in that way. Okay, this is the only thing the LTI system can do to an exponential signal. This is not true for any other signal, only true for the exponential signal. Now coming to what is this h of s. So let me rewrite what is h of s. So here h of s, this is what determines how much is the amplitude will be changed, how much is the phase or the shift introduced. So h of s is what? Integral tau going from minus infinity to plus infinity h of t into e raised to minus st dt. I am changing the variable from tau to t. Anyhow, we are going to integrate out, the integration variable will go away. Whether I put t or tau, it doesn't matter. And ultimately after that I will get a function of s. There will be no t or tau anything. Because tau or t is an integration variable, I can use it. Now what is this? This is called the Laplace transform. Laplace transform of h of t. This is called the Laplace transform. So this is how Laplace transform become important in the study of LTI system. Okay, so if you have an impulse response h of t, then if you do this operation is called Laplace transform, finding the Laplace transform of h of t. I don't know whether you have studied Laplace transform earlier in mathematics. Let me know. Have you seen this expression?
No, sir.
No. Okay, doesn't matter. If you have not seen, now you see it. This is the way we calculate the Laplace transform of any function. Okay, so let me rewrite it. So Laplace transform of f of t, okay, I can take f of t also, is equal to integral tau or t. Okay, so here I have used t, as I should be consistent. If I am using t, I should use t everywhere. If I am using tau, I should use tau everywhere. Okay, so let me just delete this. Okay, t going from minus infinity to plus infinity. F of t is the function whose Laplace transform we want to find. Multiply it with the e raised to minus st and then integrate from minus infinity to plus infinity. So this is called the Laplace transform of f of t. So if any function is given, we can find out, we can do this operation and we will get a function of s, and that is usually represented by capital F. Okay, if you are taking f of t, okay, like this, then we will take f of s. This is the Laplace transform. How do you get it? Perform this mathematical operation. You multiply it with e raised to minus st and then integrate it from t going from minus infinity to plus infinity. This is all you have to do, where s is your sigma plus j omega. Okay, this is your sigma plus j omega. Okay, so now let's take some functions. We are going to evaluate the Laplace transform of standard functions. Examples. Okay, so the simplest example we can think about is Laplace transform of delta of t. Laplace transform of delta of t. So apply the formula. T going from minus infinity to plus infinity. Instead of the function f of t, you put delta of t into e raised to minus st dt. What will it give? It will sample the value of this multiplied function e raised to minus st at t equal to 0, where the impulse occur, and you will get it as 1. Number 2. Laplace transform of e raised to at. Laplace transform of e raised to at into u of t. E raised to minus at into u of t. Let's take this. Minus at into u of t. What will we get? Just substitute integral t going from minus infinity to plus infinity. Substitute e raised to minus at u of t into e raised to minus st. So here we have substituted the given function. Now u of t is positive 1 for positive values of time, and it is 0. So this integration you can do only from t is equal to 0 to infinity, e raised to minus at into e raised to minus st into dt. Okay, so this is what it is. You can combine it and write it as t going from 0 to infinity, e raised to minus s plus a t dt. Now if I integrate this, I will get e raised to minus s plus a into t divided by minus s plus a. And then I have 0 to infinity. Now is very critical point. Next step is very important. Okay, often students miss the importance of the next step. That is, when I put t equal to infinity, what is the value of this particular signal? Okay, so what I am saying is that, so this, if I put the limits, so 1 by s plus a with a minus sign, I can take it outside, e raised to minus s plus a into infinity. Okay, this is infinity, minus e raised to 0, which is 1. So I need to know what is the value of this. When I put infinity here, what is the value? I need to know. Then only I can evaluate this integral. That will depend upon s. That will depend upon s. So a is some positive quantity. So it is given in the problem that a is a positive quantity. Okay, so let me put that categorically. A is greater than 0. Okay, it's given. A is greater than 0. It is given along with the question. A is greater than 0. Now if a is greater than 0, e raised to minus a into infinity, that will be decaying to 0. But I do not know what will happen to e raised to minus s into infinity. But s, I know that s is sigma plus j omega. Okay, so it has sigma real part and j omega imaginary part. So a is a real quantity, so I can combine s plus a as sigma plus a plus j omega. I can combine it like this. Now, if sigma plus a is positive, then because of this minus sign, I will have the first term equal to 0. So what I am saying is that if sigma plus a is greater than 0, then e raised to minus sigma plus a into infinity will be 0. If sigma plus a is positive, then it is a minus e raised to minus infinity, so that is 0. So we need to make sure that sigma plus a should be positive. So you can say that is, if you want to have this integral to converge, this for the convergence of the above integral, real part of s, that is sigma, plus a should be greater than 0. Or now I can say this statement in terms of real part of s, that is real part of s, real part of s should be greater than minus a. Under this condition only I can evaluate this integral. Okay, under this condition, Laplace transform of e raised to minus at into u of t is equal to 1 by minus of s plus a into 0 minus 1. Okay, which is what? This is equal to minus minus cancel, it is 1 by s plus a. So whenever we write the Laplace transform, you should also mention under what condition this result is valid. This result is valid only under the condition real part of s is greater than a. So let me just portray that. So I am going to what is called the s plane. What is s? S is sigma plus j omega. So this is called the s plane. So this is the sigma axis and this is the j omega axis. So in this plane, anywhere the value of s can be. It is extending to plus infinity, minus infinity, plus j infinity, minus j infinity. It's a plane. In this place, you find the region where the above integral is valid or the Laplace transform is valid, and that is when real part of s is greater than minus a. A is a positive number, so minus a will be somewhere here. So this line is basically the real part of s equal to minus a. So if it has to be greater than minus a means we are talking about this side. Okay, this shaded region is where this value, if it takes, then we don't need to worry about the Laplace. So Laplace transform exists for this, while any value in the s plane which is to the right of real part of s is equal to minus a, and this is called the ROC. This is called the ROC. ROC stands for region of convergence. ROC stands for region of convergence. Okay, so whenever we evaluate the Laplace transform, we should say along with the result under what region or under what region of convergence this result is valid. So in this case we will say like this, ROC is real part of S greater than minus A. So that is how you have to say. So Laplace transform of e raised to minus at u of t is equal to 1 by s plus a with ROC real part of s greater than minus a. So together they represent the result. So we'll continue with more functions in the next class. We'll stop here. If there is any question you can ask.